opponent is up a game, but he's starting game 2 with 3 cards.
It's not a lot of cards.
That's when I hope 2 against black draw like a 1-drop and 3 lands or something, so that when they thought seize me, I can just show them a grip full of lands and be like, ha, gotcha there. Devour Flesh is going to take care of Experiment 1. We'll see if Cory gets to play this game. Have you ever won off a Mold to 3?
Mold to 3, no. I think a couple times off 4 and a bunch of times off 5.
I was going to say, I've done it off 4 like twice.
Yeah.
And I was pretty happy about that. I don't know if I've ever won a Mold to 3.
3 is tough. That's not a lot of cards, especially when you're getting like Lifebane zombied and you only have 1 land. It's like,
yep, Lifebane. Yeah, that's always great. Now it's a Mold to 2. Lifebane zombie takes away Voice of Resurgence.
All right, so now we have Selesnya Charm up.
All right,
from Cory's side. Is there anything that we can do?
He swings. If you're Chris, do you trade here or no? He's not going to trade. He's going to take the damage.
I don't think so. It's like, yeah, I mean, you can.
This guy could go the distance.
You can try to grind him into dust, or you could just try and kill him with your 3/1 Intimidator. And I think that might be a mistake that a lot of Mono Black Devotion players make, where they try to play too defensive, where actually, like, you want to kill some stuff and just get into a racing situation.
I mean, if you look at Chris's hand, he didn't have the 4th land there. You see as he plays another Lifebane. He does have a Whip of Erebos on 4 and a Gray Merchant on 5. Like, that hand races all day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially if you have a Whip, that's incredibly good with Lifebane Zombie.
Well, here we go. Cory's going to make a Night Token. And it just seems like as soon as Chris hits the land, as soon as that Whip hits the table, it's lights out.
It would be interesting to see if Cory could actually do anything about that. I mean, like, he's giving it a good fight, right? But, like,
yeah, he has 2 creatures and he's attacking with them. It's awesome.
Yeah, but being on a Mold to 3 and getting Lifebane is pretty tough to come back from.
And we go back to Chris's side. He hits Hero's Downfall for the turn, doesn't hit his land, but it looks like he's just going to win this race on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, not drawing the land kind of sucks for Chris, but at the same time, like, if he's just drawing more removal spells, it really doesn't matter, especially since Cory is still not doing much of anything. Like, you're winning the race already, but you also now have some additional removal spells just in case.
Some interesting cards look like they've come out of the board for Cory Anderson. He does have a Johnny's Presence in his hand, along, I believe, with Setessan Tactics.
Yeah, I definitely like Presence in this matchup because it allows for exchanges like this where the Mono Black player goes for a removal spell and you get to not only counter it, but deal an extra point of damage just for 1 mana.
Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and make that play. It seems pretty good. Keeps him in the game.
Yeah.
Right now.
And Setessan Tactics is one of those things where, like, this removal light green-white deck doesn't have a lot of ways to deal with the Intimidate from Lifebane Zombie and Pack Rat.
Yeah, Pack Rat, I think you really hit the nail there. That would be the card that I would want Tactics for, so that I just don't get beaten by a turn 2 Pack Rat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you bring in Tactics just for something like Pack Rat, but the fact that they have Lifebane also means that as long as you can keep the pressure off from Mono Black Devotion, like, the green-white deck actually top decks pretty well. It has a bunch of decent threats.
Yeah. Chris Doomblades away the Experiment 1, and despite the fight that Cory has put up, it looks like he is not going to be our hero right now. He's going to stay alive 1 more turn by tacticsing his guy and killing a zombie, but
not
where
true.
we go from there...
Not true, because he has to take 1 from the Mana Confluence.
Oh, no, you're right. Okay, he goes down to 3. This isn't even going to work. I wouldn't show the card then.
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. I think people might overvalue just not giving away too much information, whereas, maybe you want him to see Tactics and, like, want him to try and play around it, just because it's, like, not a focal point of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, well, it's okay. So there's an argument where, like, you actually want to show someone a card. That seems totally reasonable.
Right.
You want to give them the fear of that spell.
Yeah, because it's like, if you have a Tactics, it's basically to kill a turn 2 Pack Rat, right? But if they know you have something like Tactics and they don't play a turn 2 Pack Rat out of fear that you might kill it, that is like you had the Tactics the whole time, except,
you didn't have to play it.
Yeah, you didn't have to play it, and you didn't even have to have it. And then by the time Pack Rat comes down on turn 5, like, maybe this green-white deck has a big enough board presence where it doesn't really matter, or at least they have 2 guys where, like, your Tactics is still good against their Pack Rat.
I guess it depends if you want them to play around Tactics or if you don't want them to play around.
Right.
You have to decide which one's better for you.
Yeah, and regardless, even if you can't decide, it might just be better to make them have to think about it and not you.
So this means All right, so going into game 3, we're going to get to have Cory Anderson back on the play. Presumably we'll have more of a game. He'll get to restart on 7 cards.
I would say like 5 cards is all he needs to make it an actual game, but we'll see.
How do you feel about this matchup from the green-white side? Green-white was the runner-up at the Pro Tour. It's another one of those decks that has batted around Tier 1 status, but probably never cemented itself at the top of the meta. But
Yeah,
it seems to do well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we saw people like Andrew Boswell get second at an Open. Scott Lipp won an Open with the deck, and both of them were very adamant that this matchup, specifically like Mono Black Devotion, was a good matchup, and I believe that. However, the issues arise where like your mana base is not that good. You can certainly draw your threats in the wrong order. You might get to a spot where you need to top deck like one of your bigger threats, like Advent the Worm, and you draw something like an Experiment one that is just really ineffective. So there's a lot of inconsistency in this deck, which I don't think a lot of people really think is evidence. Like, oh, it's a green-white aggro deck. It's probably pretty consistent, right? But it's like the mana base is actually a pretty big issue.
And that's what I actually want. If you can touch more on that. So I would think, looking at a mana base of a 2-color aggro deck, that the mana would be fine for the deck. Would you say that actually it's a little inconsistent?
It is inconsistent. Plus, you basically have to play 4 mana confluence, which you might not want to do in some matchups. And I mean, it ends up being okay where Scott Lipp is a friend of mine, and he was telling me about this deck and how he like sided out 2 mana confluences and just like Advent the Worms against Rabble Red. Because it's like, if you draw multiple mana confluences, they're basically dead cards.
You can't play the second one.
Yeah, so you might as well just side them out, which I think is fine. But you have 8 forests and 7 plains, and that's basically like a limited draft deck mana base. And I mean, you play a lot of limited. I'm sure you can tell me horror stories about just like I drew my 5th plains before my first islands, and I just couldn't do anything. So
I mean, in limited, you want to be very careful. Like, so in limited, if I have a green 3-drop and a white 3-drop in my green-white deck, I'm like very concerned about this.
Yeah, like you want to cut one of those.
I would like to cut one of those. And you look at, decks like this, they have a Johnny Caller of the Pride and Boon Satyr in them. And also, so like, all right, I'm concerned now. Like, I would be concerned if that was true of my limited deck, and that is also true of constructed.
Yeah, so it looks like Cory's going to 6.
Chuckle from Chris Boozer. Just kind of seems to be the story of the match for him.
Yeah. Just
okay. And while they're shuffling right now, one of the things is, so we said that there's a Khans of Tarkir pre-release next weekend, so that means there will not be a Star City Games Open next weekend. But if you're looking to play with your new cards, the following weekend we will have not 1, but 2 Star City Games Opens. That's right, we have a double series weekend. We have an open in both New Jersey and Indianapolis. This is the first time we have done this to date. So no matter whether you're in the middle of the country, whether you're on the East Coast, there will be an SCG Open to play in. Remember, it'll be Khans of Tarkir legal. For those of you at home watching, the coverage will be on the New Jersey Open. That's Patrick Sullivan and myself will be covering that. But both Opens will be taking place with open points and prizes to competitors.
Yeah, and I like this a lot, especially after a new set comes out where it's like the Open Series is the thing that people get to see like these cards in action for the very first time. And I think it's really exciting to have 2 different tournaments where it's like, okay, well, maybe like this one deck wins this tournament, but you don't know if that was like an outlier. And so you get to see more results and like see more things when people are playing like all over the country, which is pretty cool.
It'll be interesting to see just how different the 2 top 8s are between those 2 events. All right, well, Cory kept on 6, so our game 3 is underway. He starts the game on Temple Garden, no 1-drop, but he does have a pair of lands, and that's Fleecemane Lion hitting the table on turn 2.
Starting with Temple Garden is basically the nut draw for this green-white deck. Like, we were just talking about the mana base, and it's like, that is the one card where it's like, if you could guarantee that I would have a Temple Garden in every opening hand, I might play the deck.
All right, Devour Flesh took Fleecemane Lion down. There is a 3rd land, it looks like, for Cory, so he's going to get to play. And 3 land is, you can operate for a long time on 3 land with green-white.
Yeah, I mean, you have Advent past that, but for the most part, 3 lands is where you want to be, especially against a deck like Mono Black, where they probably have a bunch of removal spells.
All right, and now it's Voice of Resurgence that was the play for the turn. That gives him a little more of an insurance policy against a kill spell that Chris might have, as you see more looming in his hand with Hero's Downfall drawn that turn. Chris is going to be on the kill everything plan. We'll see if he can execute. And main phase, going to go ahead and Hero's Downfall the Voice of Resurgence, leaving Cory with a star token.
Yeah, and it might feel bad to have to use a removal spell to kill the voice, but you're almost certainly going to have to kill it at some point, and plus a lot of your interaction is instant speed, so voice kind of shuts that down. So it just like limits your options and what you can and can't do. So Chris has enough removal, I certainly don't mind killing the voice there.
Bevy of cards. Still 4 cards left in Cory's hand that Chris is going to have to deal with. We see both Celestia Charm and Fleecemane Lion in his hand.
So this might be the spot where you actually want 4 lands, so you can actually start playing 2 spells a turn.
Yeah, he does have some. It looks like he has some 3s. He has Boon Satyr as well. Fleecemane Lion will be the decision, though, and the Elemental Token will swing for 2. And damage now on Chris's side. He's at 18. Looks like Chris has more lands, and it's going to go for Pharika's Cure this time on the token. Going to take care of that before it gets too big. And a lot of removal for Chris. That's what you want to be doing in this matchup, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you would also have a clock to go with it, and there we see a pack rat. So I think Chris is basically right where he wants to be. He's at 20 life. His opponent's board is not too large. You know, he's got a Fleecemane Lion, and that can be a problem, especially if it goes monstrous. But, you know, you're at least a turn away off from that happening, and you're about to start making a bunch of rats with pack rats. So
yeah, now here's a sideboard card that has come in for Cory. It looks like he has Unflinching Courage in his hand. Now, typically you wouldn't want that against a deck full of all kill spells, but would you think in conjunction with the Fleecemane Lion he has in play, that could actually go a ways towards stealing a game from an army of pack rats?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. I definitely agree that Unflinching Courage is not a card that you see a lot of people board in here. But it could just be one of those things where it's like you have kind of like weathered the storm and you got a bunch of removal out of his hand, and like maybe this is your opportunity to actually make something happen.
Yeah, he swings in. It's going to gain 5. Chris goes to 15, and Cory will go to 28. Chris in his hand does not have a kill spell, so if Cory can find that land before Chris finds a kill spell, he is got it made. But Cory draws Doomblade for the turn.
Yeah. So it's worth noting that Cory has 2 Ajani's Presence that he boarded in, so like maybe that's part of the plan, right?
Yeah. And so close there. I was going to say, like, if Cory had land, say Chris had drawn a land, both players had drawn lands. So Cory draws land 5 this turn. Like, do you think Chris can beat that?
I'm not sure. It is very tough to race. Yeah, like if Chris draws a land and then Cory draws a land and actually monstresses it and just like goes for it.
6/6, indestructible trample lifelink.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, pack rats get real big, but just how big do they get would be the question, right?
I mean, I think Cory gets another hit or 2 in, and then Chris has a bunch of pack rats back on defense.
Swing in with both pack rats.
I'm not sure if that's a great solution, but it is a solution.
And with the board running out of creatures, it looks like the rats are going to take the day again. Cory with no creatures in play, now being attacked with 6 damage from pack rats as they continue to multiply. And you see Celestia Charm cast end step here for Cory. Looks like he's planning to bestow Boon Satyr on it. And Ajani's Presence was the draw for the turn. May not have time to do that. Boon Satyr could take a lot there, and he might get some free points here. He got Chris to block with a rat, and then he's going to bestow Boon Satyr onto the Night token. And Chris just with all the plays.
Yeah, every single removal spell imaginable. So
yeah, Doomblades the Knight in response to the Boon Satyr. So his rats stay alive. He still has 9 power of rats.
I liked Chris's spot after last turn, and then this turn after he blocked, I didn't know he had the Doomblade, so I was like, oh, maybe things are getting a little dicey, you know? Like, you're kind of like behind on the rat development if you don't have anything, but now after he has that Doomblade, I think it's almost certainly just like locked up at this point.
Yeah. I mean, those are pretty clutch. I think he had to draw, he drew running Doomblades there. Which is
yep.
Like exactly what you want against green-white. And that's it. You see Cory showing his hand there, and another Unflinching Courage along with Ajani's Presence. And I'm starting to feel that was the game plan. That's why, I'm surprised to see Unflinching Courages get boarded in against mono black because it has so many kill spells. But if you're playing all these Ajani's Presences, like that to me says like you feel that the matchup's not very good and you're kind of hoping to cheese them a little bit.
Yeah.